Good evening. Welcome to the latest edition of the Highland Park Schools Edition. Today is Monday, July 18th. My name is Matthew Hirsch, and I chair the Highland Park Borough's Public Information Committee. Today, once again, we are honored to have Dr. Scott Taylor, Superintendent of Highland Park Public Schools, who's here to give us an update of what's been going on in the district. Dr. Taylor, thank you so much for coming back again and meeting with us. It's been a really busy few months, I know, and we were just hoping to get an update. I think most notably, well, before we get into the strategic planning, because we're going to talk about that, I wanted to just know what happens in the district over the summer. The kids are home, a lot are involved in camp.
It's a great question.
What are you in the administration working on?
We're actually very busy. Even though we get to dress down a bit, you'll see the principals and the supervisors in khakis and polos. We are actually spending a lot of time in our offices doing really two things. One, preparing for the opening of the next school year, which takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. Everything from making sure that our curricula is fully updated and ready to go. All purchases have been made for consumable items like workbooks, additional textbooks we might need. Scheduling is still an issue over the summer. Believe it or not, we have a lot of new students register with us over the summer. So we're doing all of that, and we're also reflecting on the prior year and trying to change things that we had in place. For instance, this next year we'll be updating the way we evaluate teachers, because when reflecting on how we did it last year, we feel we could have done a more effective job and a more efficient job. The administration team is evaluating teachers on a much higher frequency than they have in the past as a result of new state laws. So that's one example of how we've looked back at 15-16 and have considered how we can improve our practice going into 16-17. Now, obviously, one of the big projects on our plate that's going to take up most of August is going to be the start of implementing the action steps that came out of the fantastic work we did on June 28th and June 29th.
As somebody who took part in that process, I found it not only to be very rewarding, just to get to hear the insights of other folks in the district and neighbors, and get to meet new people, but it was also it really felt like the participants had an impact on the future of the district, which I think was a terrific outcome. So, like you said, it was 2 days. It was June 28th and 29th. We had close to 90 people register for the strategic plan workshop.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Where do the findings go? How is the information processed? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So first I have to echo your sentiments. I heard the same thing from other participants, that they felt they had very, very meaningful and sincere dialogues with other participants, and we had. Oh, we had quite a few people. Not everyone who registered came, but we had over 60 people participate, and we had parents, we had students, members of the community who don't have their kids in our schools but have a stake in how successful the school district is, the local council people, and you, of course, as a parent and representing the council on the numerous, you serve on the numerous committees, and everybody felt that this was a time when we finally came head to head with the challenges that we're facing, and chief among them, educational equity, trying to do more for those kids and families and guardians in need, improving quality of education, doing a much better job individualizing instruction, and providing our kids alternative experiences, because we recognize as parents, as educators, that not all kids learn the same. So we discussed all of these things, and we did it in a very genuine, honest, open, safe atmosphere. Now becomes the time when we, the district and the leadership team, make sure that those 4 hours that were spent between the two nights were not for naught. Yeah, it's great to have honest conversations, and you had a chance yourself as a participant to interact with neighbors you may not have spoken about these issues with. But we really need to put those things into action steps, and if we don't do that, then the experience will really have just been a nice experience that we can chalk up to, hey, we did it, right. And now it's time to move on. Now we're not about that, and I'm not about that. We're about action and goal setting, goal achievement, and then making the changes we need to make if we didn't reach the goal. So now what happens is we had 4 focus areas. We've got, I believe, 12 goals that came out of all of those focus areas. And we then had the participants identify 3 to 4 action steps to address each goal, to get to each goal. So all told, we have somewhere in the mid-20s numbers of action steps. My team is now responsible for helping the faculty and other district personnel implement over the next several years. So specifically, what we're going to do this summer in August as a team, leadership team, is look at the action steps. We're going to refine them if we need to make them more palatable, more effectively able to be implemented. We're going to assign start dates and completion dates to them. We're going to assign folks who are specifically responsible for implementing those action steps, whether they be supervisors, guidance counselors, the superintendent, principals, whoever. And then we're going to point out what the indicators of success will be. So that's going to take up a lot of our time. In fact, starting tomorrow at Rutgers, tomorrow being July 19th, for 2 days, the leadership team, all the supervisors, administrators, the business administrator, and I will be getting together at Rutgers. They provided us some space, and we're going to be poring over the strategic plan that was drafted on the 28th and the 29th of June. We'll be doing a lot of that. We're also going to be doing all kinds of other things, since you asked about summer work, including a book study about Lincoln and how effective he was as a leader. So the next couple of days are going to be spent not only looking at ourselves as leaders, but applying our experience as leaders to the work that was done by the community on the 28th and the 29th.
And thank you for providing that detailed update, because I think you hit the nail on the head. Is that it was, as a resident and as somebody with kids in the district, it was a terrific kind of community development exercise. It's good to come together and have a discussion about key issues facing the district, and it's good to hear various perspectives. And it's also good to every focus area had either had an instructor, a teacher, or an administrator at the table. So we would put forward ideas, and then we could get instant feedback on how those ideas take action in the classroom, which was really good, and it kind of helped us feel our way out. So you do have a lot of work ahead of you, I understand. So where do we go from here as far as further public vetting?
So that's a great question. We have, like I said, a little over 60 participants who have also agreed to become part of one of 4 action planning teams. Committees. So these 4 planning committees, made up of all the folks who showed up on the 28th and 29th who agreed to continue working with us, will be meeting with me 3 to 4 times a year at night in my conference room to get a status check on the progress we're making towards meeting the goals that they tackled. So one committee is going to focus on the first focus area, which is all about educational equity and promoting social emotional skills in our kids. And I'm going to come back to the committee in October, likely in January, then probably in March or April, and then once in June, with updates. So this is how far we've gotten implementing these action steps, and this is how close we are to getting to this goal. Sorry, but you know what? We're realizing, team, committee, we're not going to meet this goal this year. So I need your input. Work with me and my leadership team, who I'll turnkey to later, on how we could update this goal and make it a little more doable going into the following year. I'll also provide the Board of Education and thus the community who's watching or who comes to the board meetings once a month an update. Similar update on the status, the progress of our work. The difference between the board meeting presentations and the committee meetings is that the committee meetings will involve discourse. It won't just be me presenting to the community. Right. It'll be me going back and forth with the committee to continually work on our goals. Now, as I pointed out to the participants at the end of our time in June 28th and 29th, this is a living document. Our pathway to excellence, which is what we're calling our strategic plan, is something we have to treat as malleable, growing. You know, it's not something set in stone that we have to live by if we're not happy with it. If we feel like, you know what, we're actually making a lot of progress in this area, maybe we need to update the goal or update the action step to make it more sophisticated, enhance it, or vice versa. You know, the other way around. Maybe we're having a really hard time getting to this goal. Maybe we bit off a little too much and we can chew. So maybe we need to be more realistic, break this goal down into other parts. So it's a living document, and working with the 60 some odd people in these committees, grassroots level over the course of the year, it's going to be a key way to make sure that we are constantly checking in, that the community is constantly holding me accountable for making sure that we're implementing these action steps.
It seems like you have, or the district has, as a result of the strategic planning process, has probably engaged a lot of parents or residents who may have not been part of the discussion before. What type of feedback have you been hearing from people who participated in the process?
Well, I've only heard positive feedback. There may be folks who were frustrated by the process and just, are giving it a chance. But that positive feedback is really has been about the safe space that was created for people to be very honest. We had one committee that was looking at educational equity that started to talk about things I think we've only touched on, but never felt maybe comfortable talking about openly, like how we're disciplining our kids, questioning whether or not we're disciplining certain subgroups of students, like our black students or our Hispanic students inordinately more than we are Caucasian students, and if so, why? I mean, these were the things that came up June 28th and 29th, and those are tough topics to get into unless you have a safe space. So I heard, the majority of what I heard is all about that, about the safe space. I know, however, and it's justifiable, I know that some may perceive this to have just been another stab at trying to appease the community, trying to, make it look good. And I think it's valid that people might feel that way, because I've been told for decades in this district went without this process. Mm-hmm. We never really had a plan, a strategy. Or if we did, the take I've gotten from history is we didn't do it as genuinely as we could have, and so there might be skeptics, and I get that, and they're valid for their skepticism. So proof is in the pudding. Mm-hmm. I think hopefully by December people will see, wow, yeah, we actually talked about that in June, and now I'm starting to see it happen.
Maybe, not to back up a little, well, yes, to back up a little bit, maybe it's important to point out that what had led, the year's worth of work that led up to this process,
Sure.
Maybe you could just talk about the strategic plan committee that you had.
Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't point that out. I'd like the community to know that I didn't lead this process. Nobody, no one person or a small group of people dictated what came out of all of this process. Back in January, we formed an 11-person steering committee made up of all members of the community, like, for instance, Bruce Morgan, who's the head of the New Brunswick chapter of NAACP, Wendy Rosen, a parent in the district, in the community, who doesn't send all of her kids to the schools. Harry Glazer, who doesn't send children to the school district, but sits on the boards of 2 Orthodox schools here in town. So, and so on and so forth. We made sure we had every subgroup, every sect in this community represented at the steering committee table. And these 11 people met 6 times to develop a protocol. They are who helped manage and make June 28th and 29th effective, and have also guided me as to what I do now. They didn't tell us what the action steps are going to be, what the goals are going to be. They just simply helped the community facilitate. In fact, we had 2 members of the steering committee in each group on June 28th and 29th. So when you mentioned that there was an administrator or a teacher at each group, there was also a steering committee member in each group that met in these small groups that broke out on the 28th and 29th. They were responsible for facilitating the show. I took a lot of pictures. I was the timekeeper. I just made sure that everybody was in his or her place so that things could go forward. So my job is kind of like to be the overseer of the plan, to hold all the parties responsible, accountable for doing what they've got to do.
Excellent. If you haven't taken part in a community process like this, I highly recommend that you do, because your feedback is important, and it's exciting to be part of the process and help shape the future of this town toward a pathway to excellence. So.
And I do want to, you remind me to emphasize just how important it is to get folks even outside of our group who worked with us in June involved. The best way to learn about the pathway to excellence is to go to the website we've set up, which can be reached at www.pathway.hpschools.net. By going to that website, anybody who gets to the site can look at the goals, the action steps, progress we've made. I'll be providing monthly updates to the site. And there'll also be a forum that people can post questions if they have them on that site. So that's really the way to go.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Taylor, for your time again, and we look forward to coming back, the first few weeks of the 2016-2017 school year to hear how things are going, because I'm sure that it'll be a whole new crop of exciting things that you'll be sharing with. Thanks again for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you again for tuning in to the Highland Park Update Schools Edition. Just a little housekeeping business. Please stay tuned. Please visit the borough's municipal website at www.hpborough.com because August is bulk trash pickup. And September is the townwide garage sale, so you're going to want to sift out everything in your attic and make sure that things that you don't need go to the curb, or maybe somebody who needs it. But stay tuned, and thanks again. We'll see you next time.